Hello, educator in Northants. Chris Bateman here. I'm assistant principal at Manor School Sports College, and I'm really pleased to be with you today to talk about my philosophy and our school's philosophy around teaching first and tech second. When we look back over the last year at the amazing things that have happened in lots of ways, but also the challenging times we've been through, and the fact that schools have been forced to close, it's really impressive that we look back and reflect on how far we've come with our adaptation of technology in the classroom and in our education system. And I know for a fact that, like lots of us, in January we were setting up our home offices again, and as my wife is working from home, I had to move office, and I've now moved office again to the upstairs bedroom. And we've been incredible at adapting to new technology in very new ways of working. And I want to share my philosophy around technology with you today in education, and I want to do that in the context of the fact that I'm a fully qualified computer scientist, and so I'm a computer scientist in the classroom. I've come from a school that was one-to-one and Google completely before I joined Manor, and then I joined Manor and we are a Microsoft school. We're on the journey to become a Microsoft Showcase school, and I'm an MIE, a Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert. And so I say what I'm about to say in the context of the fact that I really think technology has a place in education. But I'm going to pepper that and change that a little bit, because I'm probably going to shock some of you and say that I think it's not the be all and end all. And I had a great conversation with a colleague on Twitter, a former colleague on Twitter the other day around it, and saying, I want you back in the classroom. I want you back in where we love, because that's what we love, don't we? And we know that the last couple of weeks when we've returned to schools, seeing students back in the classroom is the best part of our job. So I think we're at a real crossroads in education at the moment, and I think it's a real potential turning point for us about where we go next. And I think there's possibly three different directions we could take, and I think that only one of them is the correct one, personally. We could just go back. We could go back to what we did in education in February 2020, and we could ignore the fact that our teachers and our students and our parents as well, and our whole community have adapted huge technological advances. We could go back to February 2020 and be quite happy and just run as we were. That's option one. We could, and schools will, and I suspect some schools already have, invest a lot of time, money, effort, hard work, and do loads more stuff. And schools might take the view over the next couple of months and weeks to do loads more around technology and increase the amount of technology they're already using as they return to school. Or we take a moment, we pause, we think, we stop, we reflect on how far we've come, and then we look at what the next steps are. And my view as a leader in a school, but also a teacher, is that if schools do the first two things, they're going to make a mistake. If we go back to where we were in February 2020, we're going to have wasted the opportunities and the learning that we've done over the last 12 months. Equally, if we just plough ahead and invest loads, both time and money, into rolling out new technologies, continuing to add, continuing to just chuck stuff into the system, into the mix, I think we're going to make a big mistake. My personal view, and it's been the view at Manor for a number of years, that we need to pause, think and reflect. That's not to say we're not going to invest time and money. That's not to say we're not going to keep stuff the same. What I'm saying is we just need to pause and think and reflect. We wrote this at Manor probably about a year and a half ago now, about 18 months ago, when we were writing our IT strategy. And the bits in there that are really important to me are the bits that are in blue. We want technology to improve and enhance teaching and learning, because we want it to help us lead to sustained improvements in educational outcomes. That bit in the middle there around enhancing and not hindering the practices of staff and students. For me, there's two things. If it's not going to improve education, or it's not going to reduce workload, I'm not interested in the technology. I'd rather not have the technology if it adds to workload or if it confuses and complicates education, because those two things have got to be our priorities. We've got to support education, improve productivity, and improve effectiveness. And so as leaders and teachers across Northamptonshire, I empower you and I encourage you to go back to your primary focus, which is teaching. Teaching first, tech second. What does your teaching and learning strategy look like in your school? For us at Manor and across the Nairn Education Trust, it's centralised pedagogies. Based on the work of Alison Tharby and Sherrington and Rosen and Shine's principles, we think these are the things that are going to make the difference to pedagogy in our classroom. We focus everything we do around these centralised pedagogies. having really high challenge, explaining really well, modelling brilliantly and lots of models where need be, giving the opportunity for students to practice deliberately, questioning and checking understanding, providing feedback, making sure that the behaviours for learning are correct, and adapting and responding to student progress. And if we can embed those things in our classroom in February 2020, which we were doing, and we can embed them into technology, then the technology is great. But if the technology is going to stop one of those things working, or it's going to add a layer of complexity to it, I think we need to stop and pause. If I were going to give you 3 bits of advice, these are 3 things I'd focus on if I were you over the next 12 months. We move forward and review. Before we do anything else, we have to think about what's the clarity and the certainty about where resources are located. Schools now need to stop and pause and think, because we've got loads of stuff out there in technology. Where are we storing it? What are we storing? When? I would encourage schools to look at low stakes quizzing. I think that's a brilliant area to focus on if you're looking at technology and what to do next. I think that's an area that we can reduce workload, we can improve efficiency around assessment. I'd encourage you to look at those 2 things. And then finally, it's about the creation, storage and retrieval of models. How are we recording models? Where are we putting them? And how are we going to enable students to get them? If you're thinking one-to-one, have a think, have a plan, but make sure you focus on teaching and learning. And just to prove I've not made this up, and this has been my view for a number of years, the EEF said this: teaching quality is more important than how lessons are delivered. Daisy Christodoulou, in her brilliant book Teachers versus Tech, released last year, said that. And it wasn't those 2 things that made me think this, because I've been saying it for years. There I was, 2017, working with Google, not Microsoft, but saying exactly the same thing. Tech is a tool, not the tool. Get the teaching right first, then the tech. Thank you for joining me. More than happy to get involved and have a conversation. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.